Okay, so this is probably going to take a little bit of explaining because I haven't quite finished doing it yet. I've only just started it, but this is the general concept. I don't know whether you'd call this a proof of concept, I suppose. You might remember before I was doing numbers, trying to say how one number can be represented by one or two numbers can be represented by two colours, like, because basically they run the same timetable back and forward, and if you actually use what I've done over here, it would take way too long for me to explain it all right now. Basically speaking, you can write in numbers, or you can write numbers in colour up to thousands and thousands without real any problems if you do them a certain way. You can quite easily use 9 and 1 together and things like that. You basically, what you do is you basically use two of the same block to represent one of two different colours. So you would have like yellow represents 1, but 2 yellows represents 9, because 1 and 9 are the same timetable. 7 and 3 are the same timetable. If you don't know what I mean by that, what I mean is if you do the 7 timetable back to front, it will go into a 3 timetable, like 7, 14, 21, 28, blah blah blah. Well, this would be like 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. If you actually take away the 10s, you'll realise that they're like, oh, let me show you what I mean. Here we go, 7 and a 3. This is, if we go look, this is the 7 times table, look. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. We're just taking out the 10s, you see. Now if you go the back way, you can see that obviously it's upside down, but 3, 6, 9. You just have to tell yourself, obviously, you know that's upside down. 3, 6, 9, 2, 5, 8, 1, etc. Just sending in the 10s. Oh, anyway, let's get back to what I was talking about. This fucktard, whatever the fuck it's called, Futhark. Yeah, that's the one. I've been looking for a long time now for a language with less alphabetics in it, because basically what I want to do is I want to use numbers and colours to be able to write script just using colours, really. And I was having problems with the Latin alphabet because it's got 26. It makes it very difficult because I want to use prime colours and stuff, and there's only 24 colours on the colour wheel. I mean, admittedly it's infinite, but there's only 24 recognised colours on the colour wheel. 12 that most would use. I've cut this down to like 12. And then what I've done is, well, basically this is a 24 letter alphabet, so what I've done is I've cut it down into, I haven't got around to finishing it yet, but there's 6 there, 6 there. I'm going to do another 6 on each lane, and then that's going to be 4 groups. You might remember me showing before, like each one of these colours represents a number. So what I'm doing is, at the start it runs a grouping system. So that one, if it's on that group, for example, that light will come on, and then it'll be like, oh, so now when you're doing 1 to 9, it's going to determine your number. Like this is 1, 2 and 3. 2 is nothing, it's a neutral. If it's a 3, the red light comes on, you've lit the red light up. And if it's a 2, or if it's a 1, you've lit the first one and you've lit up the orange. But because it's because this is in the yellow block, the yellow grouping, it allows you to reuse all of these colours again, you see. Because, like, obviously you could assign one colour to every single individual letter, and that, I mean, that does work. But the idea of this is to try and separate into 4 groups of 6, and then use 9 numbers, 3 of which are neutral, 6 of which determine one of the 4 or one of the 6 colours. And I've used the colour tree. So like you've got your red and your orange, you've got your blue and your purple, and then you've got like your yellow and your green. So each one of these is one of the independents, and then you've got your primary, and then you've got your secondary, and each of these, and then obviously you've got your neutral in between each one. So yeah, generally that's the principle. I'm trying to use the secondary and the primary colours to determine all 6 of these numbers, but then it will be in a block of 4, or it will be one of 4 blocks. So that will be like 1, 2, 3, 4. Say for example you start in block 1 and then you get a 6, then that would be, well, that's obviously block 1, and then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so you'd be that colour. Or it could just be like block 1 and then it could have 3 colours, or it would be like 3 numbers, and you could say a whole word or a whole sentence just be like, basically what you'd do is you'd have block 1 would be yellow, and then you'd have some kind of symbol to say it's like, you might even use a black symbol, I don't know, maybe just a dot to say that that's a separate group, that you've grouped it now, that's a group. And then from there you'd have your numbers that will be within that group, which would tell you however, like, it could be 4 or 5 runes, it might be 1, however many numbers you've added after the break in the code. Because the whole idea of what I'm trying to do with this is to, I think you could reduce the amount of information in a computer code by quite a lot by converting it into numbers and colours. I think what you'd need is you'd only really need one architecture program for it to read, and then as long as that program was coded in there so that they knew what to read from, everything else could just read the colours. And you could literally write entire, you could have miles and miles of script that are literally just a few dots in colour. One stream of dots in colour could represent 10 or 20 pages of information that someone's had to type out, because they've only had to type, all they've had to do is put a little dot, and that's put in like 20 words in runes, and you know what I mean. Generally speaking, I think it's too much. I think the reason why computers are slow is because they're reading through so much shit, and it's all like, even when you want to write code, it's stupid because you've got to put in if or and all of this. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You can't write code and change the code because somebody's got the original architecture. Everything's running on the servers that they're running as the world's internet, and anything you do develop doesn't run on their shit because it's not built to understand it. And I just think we can get a lot of information digested down into dots and colour, and like a whole language. I'm pretty sure, I think I explained well enough how that could work. I mean, it's up to you guys what you think, but I think it would work. It makes sense to me. 4 groups, 6 colours or 6 letters in each group. 9 numbers determines which of the 6 letters you get. It could probably even work out better, I mean, in some ways, because a rune can actually represent entire words, from what I understand. I don't actually know the language of the runes, if I'm being completely honest. It was more the fact that the convenience of it being 24 letters, which meant it was a lot easier for me. It was something I could break down and separate into like the 9 numbers. Otherwise it wouldn't have worked. The fact that it's broken into 6s means that I can then divide them into 3, which means I can divide each one into 2, which gives me the option of one, the other, or neither. You see what I mean? It gives me that ternary system. That's what this is about. It's all about the ternary. One, the other, or nothing. And it's the reason why I've put these columns here in the middle. These are the neutral numbers. Like, that's a 2. That one there's a 5. And that one there's an 8. They're like neutral numbers. If you land on any of them numbers, it won't give you any of these colours. So if you get 1, 3, 4, 6, 7 or 9, you'll have any one of them 6 colours to write language with. And obviously the colours aren't, although I say 9, the numbers are represented by 1 dot of colour. So you basically have the dot of colour, and then you've got the dot of the other colour that you're giving you. You know what I mean? Oh, unfortunately I don't know how to program or any of that useful stuff. So it's like, I don't know how to make any use of this shit. We don't want to work on Friday. It's a shame, actually. The only thing I don't like on Minecraft is the fact that it's really good for doing things like this, but then the work you have to put in just to be able to, like, because of the scale of everything, if I wanted to put a key on there and just be like, oh, this means neutral and this means that and this means that, I've got to build so much crap to do it. Or like, just to put an example on here, for example, if I wanted to just make a quick example, it would take me 20 minutes to build all the letters up in order for me just to do like, oh, this is yellow 365 kind of thing, and then give you what it would spell out, because I'd have to like write and build all of these letters independently. But essentially the principle is to convert everything, all the letters into numbers, or all the letters into colours, and all the colours into numbers. So that by saying a big long list of colours, like dot 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 dot, you've actually said like a long line of numbers, and then them numbers have translated into a long list or a long paraphrase or whatever the hell you wanted to say from the letters, just by having a long spreadsheet of dots. Basically will give you chains and chains of words, provided that they're written in such a way that it's like group numbers, you know what I mean, group colour, group colour, group colour, because you have to have that grouping in order to independent of in order to separate which colours which group. Because obviously if you've got red in group 1 and then you've got red in group 2, you're not going to know the difference unless you've done, like, that one's a yellow, but group 2 is blue, is like this blue, so you'd have to start with the blue, and then you'd have your separate, and then you'd have this group, you know what I mean? So they'd know it was a separate group. Or if it was just one letter in that group, it would be like blue slash that letter, and then it would separate, it would break again, and you'd start a new bit of code. We're really interested to see somebody that actually understands the language, if they could put it together in such a way that you could make it like a, because what I've been told about it is very phonetical, so I'd like to see somebody put the idea to, like, somebody actually knows what they're doing about the whole putting in the computer aspect of it, because it's way too much work to be trying to wire all this shit up. You know, I ain't got the patience. But if somebody knew how to do that, then they could run it through an algorithm where it worked, then that would be awesome, because I'd love to see it in action, where they just pop in like 6 or 7 numbers and then it writes a word up in front of them, like bing 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 bing, all the little letters are flashing, and then at the end it's chucked out the word or the sentence or whatever they've put in there. Just messing around with it, I know that I already know that this is functional, you know what I mean? I take a little bit of somebody a bit smarter in how to integrate it into something, but functionally it works. So basically you're just putting in like 1 of 4 numbers, and then you're putting in a chain of numbers that determine what colour or what room you got, or what rooms. Anyway, I'm rattling. Any rune heads out there? Lend me your ears. These are actually using the colours I've got to represent, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That actually represents 6 and 4, but because of the fact that they're how they work in the thing, it's very easy to write them because you just put 1 or 2 blocks instead of 1. Only thing I did think, I mean at the moment you can write it vertically or horizontally the way I've done it, but they could use it in terms of the architecture. They could make it so that whenever you write, they could make it so that you only write numbers vertically. And if they did that, that would actually that would separate the two in terms of, yeah, in some ways that might make it a lot easier for the hardware to tell. Because obviously if you're writing in words like that as well, it could become problematic. But if you had it so that all the words were straight and then the others went upwards and up and down on top of each other, you could distinguish numbers from colours that, or distinguish numbers from letters that way independently, if you wanted to go down that route. Like see here, like that's the red, that represents 7 and 3. Same as that one, that's 9, but it's also 1. Just a shame this ain't like, there's so many things on Minecraft I wish it had. Like for example, if I could put a switch in the middle of there that when I flicked it switched the other two off automatically, that would be cool. Because then you could be like, oh, it's neutral now, click, and both of them are off, and that's the one that's flicked the other way. In some ways sometimes I put them on there not because they don't work, but they're on there purely for the sake of, you know, oh, this is not that, this is off or this is on kind of deal. Not so much that it's functional, it's more that it's for the sake of just showing how it works, really. Oh, shit. These ones will literally just like red or orange, but obviously if you get the middle number and you're nothing, kind of irrelevant. Well, there's just no way to make it look like you've not got one on and the other off. I mean, that's why I ended up having to do that other stuff over here with all of these stupid things. To be fair, I'd much rather just have it like that, one on one side, one on the other. But the work I've got to do to try and fucking wire that up, it's just more hassle than it's worth. Okay, where the fuck is that? accidentally saved over my... What the hell, man? This is not my main save. The fuck is my... I had built a little ternary on here. It doesn't seem to be here anymore. I don't know where it's gone. Fucking ages as well. Tosser. First attempt at sculpting. I think it's pretty good. Updates, look what it did to my shit. If I can run all my letters out, bastard. fucking built. What the hell? Yeah, it took me a long time to get that fucker to work. So I was trying to do here with the ternary. So it's either or either, look. So like one's on. It's really hard to get them all to do that. It took me fucking ages. And for some reason this one, I don't know what I've done. works. Must have not filled it back in though, I don't know why. I think I do know why. I'm pretty sure every time I stuck something back on there it stopped working for some weird reason, and I couldn't figure out why. Because it's exactly the same circuit as all of the others. It doesn't make any sense to me. As soon as I block that off, I think is what it is. So that's the same circuit. Clearly it isn't, because oh, maybe. Nope. Some people don't wanna go to work, babe. God, it's Friday. Fuck man, that's way confusing. Definitely shouldn't have left that mid-round. That's why I was doing them on both edges. Damn it. I know where I'm gonna remember how the fuck I did all that. What was I doing here? That's the 4 numbers. That's the reason for that. Yeah, I get it. High, low, high. Motherfucker, I stuck all that on the wrong fucking one. You dumb bastard. What do I got? This thing I hate about Minecraft, the electronics on it suck. Once you do have, it's impossible to get like the space that you want and to be able to cover up all of this ugly shit without breaking the circuits. Lego. Oh fuck, I'd have to do another day. It's just driving me mad. Could you work with all the others? Up as well. Oh well. What if I'm missing? Stream, probably doing to look at the stuff that I'm not actually playing at this minute. Don't know if you see the start of the stream. I did explain it for a little while. Basically what I've done is I've taken a 24 letter alphabet from the Anglo-Saxon and Norse runes, etc., or Elder runes, and divided it into 4 groups of 6, and then using a ternary system with 1 to 9, separated them all by colours, and then each one of these, like this for example, is 1, 2, 3. But the 2 is neutral, 1 equals that orange, and 3 equals the red. Because they're in 4 groups, you know by the first colour. Like if it's in the yellow group, then it allows you to reuse the colours over and over again, basically for all the different letters. You can have one colour can represent 4 different runes, because the fact that it's into separate groups initially by the fact that you've grouped it by the colours means that you start off with that, for example, so it would be like group yellow slash, and then you'd have 3 numbers which would also be done by colours. So for example, that's a 3, 3, 4, 9 for example, and that would give you that colour, all red. But you'd just be like yellow. It would just, if you was to write it, you'd just write it as colours, because you write the yellow would initially put you into that grid. So therefore you wouldn't, like, because you put that first, they'll know which one you're referring to, for example, because there's only 6 in each group. One of 3 numbers, or it's divided into 1 of 9, so like 6 numbers in each group, divided between 9, so obviously 9 divided into 3 is 2, or it's 3 each, but basically if you put 6 between 9, you take away 3 numbers to make them neutral, and then all the other numbers result in 6. Gives you like this, where like that's a neutral, that's a neutral, that's a neutral, and then you've got orange, red, purple, blue, green, yellow. I've used a colour wheel. That's why I'm basically I've got a bit of a theory that I think our ancestors were a lot smarter than we were, basically, and I think although we've changed a lot of our languages and things over time because we think we're being smarter, I think actually mathematics and colours and all of those things, when they was originally created, were probably all created together. Like I think the abacus was designed to be run with a 9 numbers. They actually invented the 0 quite late in human history. It wasn't something that we always used. It's something that they brought out quite far into our history, and I think a lot of our old languages and stuff didn't use it, and they benefited from not having it. I think the fact that we use it now actually complicates a lot of stuff. It makes a lot of things mathematical wise that would work not work, because we're using more letters, or we're using more of this and that we didn't need, and nothing actually works together, because everybody went off on their own little field and was like, oh, I'm a language specialist, I'm a this specialist, I'm a that specialist, talk a load of shit, changed it and changed it and changed it, when originally I think they all worked as one united unit. I think colours, languages and all of that kind of stuff was probably, because there's 24 colours, and which is quite convenient that there's also 24 letters in the Elder alphabet, you know what I mean? And even if you divide that into like the shorter version where it's 12, that still divides very well between 24 rather than 26, which kind of fucks up with everything, doesn't work with anything. If I divide the 24, I can get 6 or 4 blocks of 6. 0 isn't really a number, and 5 is kind of it's a middle one, do you know what I mean? It's actually a neutral number, so it doesn't really relevant to anything. There's only really 4 main numbers that can be divided into one or the other. 5 can't be divided. 5 can't be doubled unless you start adding on zeros and making tens and things. And I don't think tens ever existed. I think basically before we had zeros, that was why we had abacuses, because before we had zeros, you'd have a separate lane to move that one bead across, and that would be your 0. That would be your whole. They never used to look at it like tens and shit. They'd just be looking at it as like, this is a whole now, 90%, one whole, you know what I mean? And I think we changed all that, adding in zeros and shit, which is why like 5 is kind of one of those in between numbers. It doesn't really have any other than 10, obviously. It doesn't really have any other numbers to go along against it. Every other number works in the times table as well. Like they've all got an alternate number. I've been saying this for a while, but basically 3 and 7 are the 7's timetable and the 3 timetable minus the 10's, and it's the same with all of them. Like 2, 4, 6, 8, 2 and 8 are the same. That's why I've got the same colour to represent both. Basically one block can represent the 2 and 2 blocks represents 8, but with that one colour can write 2 whole letters. It reduces information lag and shit quite a lot, you know what I mean? I think you can write entire languages using colours basically, and this is what I'm attempting to do with this. I'm attempting to take it so that with 4 blocks it would just be like yellow, red, green, blue, for example, and then that would give you 3 runes from that yellow block, or you'd be like red, 6, whatever colours, which would represent numbers, and that would give you the colours from this block, and you could write entire pages of code with just a line of dots. All you'd have to do would have you'd have to have a thing that determines whether or not you do it, whether it's doing numbers or letters, do you know what I mean? Which you could also do by having numbers vertically, if they wanted to do it that way, because what I've been doing is basically developing a way to write numbers using colour into like insane numbers, like this shit. Just goes up and up and up and up to the millions. Generally speaking though, you do end up finding yourself using the symbol for the 0, just because that's the way everything works now. Yeah, basically a short recap is, this is 1 to 9, 3 of the numbers are neutral, so they don't count for anything, and the in-between ones, well, the 3 numbers are 2, 5 and 8, so 1, 3, 4, 6, 7 and 9 all count from one of these letters. And obviously it's in groups, so you got group 1, and then whatever number or whatever colour happens to be one of these numbers. Right here, let me think. So we'll do a little example. I'm going to use the black as a to divine it from a separate group break, basically code break, I suppose. If I was looking at it as a computer language, I'm using this as a line break to say it's separated, or to say that it's separate numbers from the groups. Pain in the arse this is, because I don't have enough slots to hold everything I want. Don't have enough slots here. Fuck. The colours I want. Oh God, it's annoying me now. Shit controller. You get your free bulk. Controller. These basically represent 1 to 4. That's number 1, 2, 3, 4. These also represent 9, 8, 7 and 6, depending on where they're used or how they're used. So basically what would happen is one of these will light up, and that would be that group, and then you'll get a string of numbers, and the numbers will also be in code, or will be in colours, probably. I'm actually decided about that. I haven't been thinking about this for a little while. It's all coming back, it's all starting back into doing it for a minute, but it's just too much information to try and put down, and I don't know how to do a lot of what I'm doing. It's a bit work. So this flashes. Ding 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 ding. Fuck it. Let's put a light bulb on it. group 3. Okay, you've got a 1 to 9 in colours, which are represented by one of 3 colours again. It would be your fuck am I doing? Confused. It's because of the neutral part. I don't quite know how to write it yet. I haven't got that far ahead. I've only really been working out how they would work together at the moment. Obviously it's quite hard as well using Minecraft because you can't just write things down. It takes quite a lot of work to build everything before you can actually put it into practice. That would basically be them 3 letters, just because of them 3 colours. But the fact that it's assigned into this box means that you know for a fact, well, it wouldn't be that specific one, it would actually be the yellow box for these, because they're in the yellow grouping. I haven't got around to building one for this yet, but like, I haven't got around to building the red box yet. This is the blue box. Once I get round to building a red box for the other 6 letters and another one for the last ones, then you could essentially have a big line of this, and it would be how, like, it could be that if you wanted, and that would just be loads of this letter. This is really just for separation factors like neutral or on or off, depending. That one means nothing. Essentially, as soon as you light up that box, it shuts down all 4 of the others, so you know that it's this code now. It's one of these letters. Can't be any of the others because they're in that specific. They're separated into that box. As soon as that light turns off, let's 6 another box, and then it'll be whatever's in, whatever numbers, whatever colours come up will determine what numbers are in this box, what one you're using. Except you wouldn't need to. You could either use numbers or you can use colours. I mean, I'm using colours as numbers anyway, but I think you could reduce the information in a computer by quite a lot by just having dots instead of words like if and or and symbols and all that kind of crap. I mean, you could have a symbol for if and or and stuff, but having to type the whole word in is a chore. I mean, some of the code languages is insane. Like this stuff, you could literally have, as long as you've got things built into the architecture of the program, you don't actually need a lot of code. The initial code would be building the architecture, but once it's built, it'd be like it's either numbers or language. It'd just have 2 boxes. One assigns it to whatever it's doing. If it knows it's going into language, it takes the language box, and if it does the other, it takes the other box. And you use numbers as well as a way to determine that. Like anything, for example, anything in the odd box or anything in the even box. All the odd numbers, if it's an odd number when it starts its algorithm, it goes, oh, this is a language, and then it doesn't read numbers anymore, it just reads language, and vice versa. But it uses the numbers to determine the colour. Trouble is, it's a lot. I mean, it's difficult to write all that shit down as information when I'm doing it, and by the time I get back on here again, I've forgotten a lot of what I thought. And it's like I'm back to square one. I'm like relearning and discovering all of these ideas like they're new. Like, oh well, I thought that the last time. I just forgot about it because I didn't do it for 6 months. To be fair. Really, I'd like to be able to cut that down to be like, because these can be one of 2. Really, I'd like to cut it down so that, because that's its equivalent. That's a green. That'd be the orange. But I don't know how to get the no symbol sign. Do you know what I mean? Without building a load of crap on here to make it visible what I'm trying to say. Makes it awkward. That's what I was trying to do with that other thing. I was trying to create some kind of ternary so that it could either be on, off, or either. I did have it working on most of them lights at one point, but they're kind of one of them things that there's a certain pattern to the way you have to light them up in order for it to work properly, and because I haven't been on it for a long time, I've forgotten what I was doing, and it doesn't work properly anymore. it like that, I guess. Maybe not like that. Fucking pain in my arse. You just fucking work your shit, cunt. Fucking scrolling all the damn time. No, this isn't really mechanically sound, it's more just a representation, to be fair. so you understand what the principle of it is. But actually, I think I've really explained it as well as I probably can. Being that I'm not I'm not a genius. Well, I'm not very good at explaining shit. Essentially, picks a block, which will be one of these groups. There's another 2 groups I've got to build, but there's 6 in each. There you got your 3 central neutrals, which is your ternary system. So I have a one of 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 2, 5 and 8 are neutral. If you get a 1, and if you get 3, it's one of them. If you get a, but actually 3 is actually a red anyway in general. Same as that. That's naturally a 4 and a 6. And that's naturally a 1 and a 9. But for the purposes of if you actually exclude what their values are as numbers using the number system, they just run in as separate, as independent from all of that, then it's still the principle of it still works. It's like it's either one or the other. The fact that that's divided into 9's divided into 6 minus 3 neutral. The neutral will allow you to separate the 1 and the 2 to create the 2 letters. See? So like 2's irrelevant, but 1 and 3 is 1 or 3, you know, orange rune or the red rune from group 1. For argument's sake, you got the red rune, and then the next number was this purple rune. Just runs the numbers, whatever number you put in there, it'll just keep running all the colours out, and then it'll compile all what runes come up within that little chain before you've switched off that block. As soon as you switch off that block, it's a new chain. When you switch it back on, or it'll basically like starts again, adds a separate chain. So this is a new word. This is a new word. This is a new word. See what I mean? Obviously, I haven't configured this in the machine to work or anything. Like, if I knew what I was doing and I could be bothered to put the energy in, because I probably could do it with a bit of patience. I'd probably set it up so that one of these was a trip switch, so that when that went like that, when I switched it off, it turned everything off, and I could start again. You know what I mean? Just have a massive trip so that everything switches off. But this could just basically go on and on and on until it's complete this calculation, because you basically starts off before you're putting in the coloured numbers or whatever, and then it's going to tell you what you got. Starts off as just a code of numbers, or a list of colours, which is basically a list of numbers in colour. Feed it into this, and then it will read it out as language. That's the principle. If I could make a program, I don't know how to do coding, sadly. One of them things they never had computers and shit when I was at school, really, and I'm poor as fuck. Never had the money to have a decent one to learn it. Like, the last decent one I had was about 20 years ago. Literally was over 20 years ago now, probably. In fact, I'm pretty sure the hard drive in it's like 500 megabytes or some shit. But that was huge back then. $240 megabyte RAM. God, it was so fast. Makes anything I got now work. Like, yeah, man. I tried using it a few years ago, and it was still faster than some of the shit I got now. And yet, all the stuff in it, all the shit that's inside it, like compared to now stuff, is half the specs, not even a quarter. Just the way that they're built, I guess. Each time a new light comes on, the old one will go off, and then it will log that colour. It would log that letter even. Vice versa, you could write it in as letters and it would go, oh, this letter, this colour, this colour, this colour, this colour, and then it would throw it in like some kind of enigma machine, recode it. You've got the colour key, the only thing that works is the same key with all the same colours to work it. You ain't got the original key, you don't know what colours that it's going to be. It could be anything, couldn't it? Because the colours can represent any block if they're coded differently. You just code the block to be something else. So they see what they think is our head, but it isn't, you know what I mean? What you get, you don't get it doesn't come like with these colours in it when it's sent, when the numbers are sent to you as a code. Numbers only consist of 5 colours or 4 colours. Yeah, there's only these colours. Where the fuck? I ain't got it in my list. Colours there really are. And that one is kind of, that's one of the neutral ones anyway, and it's kind of irrelevant because it's 5 and 10. Like 10 if it's in front, 5 if it's after. That make more sense if you read all the rest of my stuff. Basically what I've done is I've used this as a symbol for 10, but I've done it like Roman numerals, so you can stack numbers on top of 10s and things like that. For example, if that's a 10 there, then you can have 10 and then 1, so that's 11, 12, 13, 14, etc. Or put 2 on top, now you've got 18. But if I wanted to make it 20, if I wanted to make that 80, I'd put it the other way around, so it'd be like, that's 8, and then I'll put that on top to get it to be an 80, and then I'd start another number on that, so it'd be like 81, 83, 84, 8488. See, you can write vertically with the colours, which is another thing. You could separate the language using it that way. But these aren't necessary for the deciphering of the language, if you know what I mean. Not only these four are, and even this one is voided. Only the three primary colours are actually necessary for the language, because you're dividing it into three. Because the other ones are obsolete numbers, and these ones are either or, basically. So it'd be like green and yellow, the purple for the blue, and an orange for the red. That's the either or. The only reason it's so complex is because, like, I'm trying to put in the option. Well, I'm trying to make it visible that the option is there to not have it. Do you know what I mean? So that number isn't lit up at all. But it's not really. I don't really know that it's necessary, as much as more of a visual aid for explaining as it is actually necessary in terms of making it work. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it would be needed. Well, it's basically just an off, rather than, if that number doesn't go in there at all. Yeah, I don't know. Technically speaking, if you're not putting that number in there anyway, or either of them three numbers, it shouldn't come up. And if you're putting in one of the other two numbers, it will only come up as one of the two colours either way. So the middle one isn't really necessary in that respect. So I'm only being forced to kind of put it in there as to explain it more than it's actually necessary. If that makes sense. I can look through it there. It's right there, dickhead. Shit, controller work. Fuck you, annoying. Like a dunce. Yeah, for example, the black spot means or if or in computer text. Not 1 3 4 yeah, 1 3 4 6 7 8's another dud. Let's chuck these duds in there. Makes more sense. See, this colour represents 2 and 8. There's another dud in there which is a 5. It sits here, I suppose. It starts getting confusing when I'm having all this shit though. Even I forget what I'm doing. Well, it's easier just not to have them in there. Stop. Stupid controller. Fuck's sake. Like I say, there was a reason for that. The reason for that was this allows you to turn them all off at once, whereas this makes it so that they're all kind of turned on or off at once, which makes a bit of a problem. Generally shows the concept much easier, just to describe a ternary on off or 1 1 3 or nothing. 4, 6 or nothing. 7, 9 or nothing. Each one of them would represent a colour within one of these groups, which is 1 of 4, which is also done by these 4 colours. Potentially though, you could possibly use, you could potentially have 2 separate ones running to determine, like, because fucking hell, words. Words don't fail me now. He's my bloody voice, ain't helping. Oh, he likes to talk so much, I'm not very good at it. Yeah, basically if you use 2 of these, they represent double the number, or like that one represents a 9 and a 1, so you could potentially have 2 of these running at once, and just so that 7-1 just does the other groups if you wanted, so that you've got like almost like 2 processors, I suppose. These represent different numbers, so I mean you could just run it so that they're, yeah, no, I just think I'm just making it worse. I think that makes sense. I'm confusing 2 different things I'm doing, combining them, and it ain't working. It's unrelated. It's just the fact that these run up to 8. I'm starting to get too into the maths of it. Like, I'm breaking down so many different numbers now that it's almost like, you know. But then, like I say, I think back in the original days we used to probably use a lot of this stuff together. I think that's why the languages and numbers and colours and all of that kind of shit all had the same number, whereas now everybody's gone off into their own little field and changed things, like the languages so much that they're no longer a combined science. I think before things were more holistic, and they probably had the same number of colours because that was the number of letters, and they could do things with them that we don't do now. That's why we don't understand a lot of ancient texts and shit, because we don't think in the same way. We don't use colours, we don't use numbers and stuff like the way they did. Like, because that represents 1 and 9, 2 and 8, 3 and 7, 4 and 6, and there was a green for 5 and 10 in my thing. But essentially you got 4 of these. I don't know how processors work, but say you had 2 of these running, you could just separate one to be running independently on the other numbers, couldn't you, I suppose? I think it would probably make it more complex though. Too much shit going on. Essentially it just reads that over and over again. Each time it's read it, however many numbers it goes in, it feeds out the letters out at the top, and then once that or once the letters in that group have been expended, it shuts down and opens another group and takes letters from that group. And you'd kind of code it like one of them 4 colours. Then you'd have like a, say for example, this is your dash key, or this is your slice between code, and then you'd have whatever these would pump out, and then when they'd end, that would switch off, and it would be like red equal blah 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 blah, blue equal blah 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 blah, and each one would be its own little passage or words or language. Deciphered. obviously you could recode that so that you could hide language in it if you wanted, have a whole string of colour, and people wouldn't be able to read it unless they got the right colour key. I wish I was a programmer. Don't teach shit like that where I live. The same effect, one or the other or neither. Each one of these lights represents one of two letters within the 6 chain. Either green, yellow, which would be them ones, or none. We getting there. I don't know where we're getting. Fucking losing my marbles. My first attempt at sculpting over there. Look, so check out my, I don't know what the fuck he is, Byzantium man maybe. I don't even know what they look like. Maybe some dude with a helmet anyway. Some utter cock because he's got a helmet, big helmet. I was quite impressed with that for my first attempt at sculpting. Thought it was pretty cool. Doesn't look that great when you start looking into it though. That will come from my grid. I won't lie, I've found a pixelated thing on a picture online with pixels and that, and I copied that fucker. I couldn't do that myself. Well, I say technically you are, I mean you are doing it yourself, but Lego in it. I really like that. That's ice blocks. Put ice blocks next to the fire and then they turn into waterfalls. Or next to the lava. Oh, updates for you, look. Work it destroyed. Yeah, this can be used for loads of stuff. I mean, at the moment it's covered in crap, but I was using it for other things. Like each one of these squares has got, I think it's like 100 blocks per 10, because you've got 10 each way, so like up to, this is how we've got the colours as well, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 and 6 are the same, 3 and 7 are the same, 2 and 8 are the same, 1 and 9 are the same, and you've got your 10 and your 5. That's 10 because it's 1 and the 10. But once it goes into the next one, it goes 10, 1, 10, 2, 10, 3, 10, 4, till it gets to 5. Because there's a bit of a confusing one on the 5. It's the only number in it that does it. Basically, when you put a 5 after, if you're using this, if you're using the same colour, it works with all the other colours, but when you get to 10, if you're using the same colour, there's like a rule you have to add for it to work. You have to change when you get to 5. you have to write it differently. I haven't done it for a while now, so it's confusing me, and I've kind of forgotten how it works. Which isn't cool when you're the one that fucking invented it and you're trying to explain it to other people, because nobody wants to hear you. Nobody's going to understand something if you don't understand it when you're bloody telling them. Then it's fucking useless, isn't it? See, what it is when you get to the high numbers, that's when it becomes a problem when you're using this, because it's you start using it as a 0 and a 5 together, and when you start adding them over on top of each other, you start having problems. That's why I have to do it differently. Like, I'll find an example of it in a minute. I'm sure I left one. There we go. We've got 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's because I'm using the numeral X. When you get to 15, you have to hit it with a 1. Because otherwise it's 2 of these, and 2 of these is actually like 10 times 10, do you know what I mean? Or 5 times 5, or 5 times 10 even. So that's where it gets problematic. Like that's 555, because it's 5 times 10 plus 5, or 5 tens. Using these symbols as 10s and 5s, but when I started getting into the hundreds, it became easier to have a second symbol as the other 0, and it's not really 100 so much as it's times 10. Becomes a bit confusing when you start getting into the bigger numbers, unless you're looking at it and doing it regularly. Once you do it regularly, it will actually makes a lot of sense, and it becomes really easy and intuitive, and it's actually better and far more intuitive than a lot of math, because like this for example, that's all the times tables right there in every direction you could imagine, and there's codes all within this, loads of it that people don't even know, and most of them. A lot of the times tables are literally just a combination of very short code that just repeats over and over again. Like once you start taking out all the tens and stuff, that's where it gets confusing, because you're trying to count up tens individually, and it starts people forgetting what they're doing. But most of them are literally like that, where they're like 8 6 4 2 8 6 4 2 8 6 4 2 over and over again. Somewhere else. Yeah, 48260 is in this code, look. For the 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. That's the 4 times table up to 40. So actually, the reason that's so long is because it's all the way up to 40, but really the code starts again at 20 because it's already reached its limit at 4s. So you've got 06284, you know what I mean? 06284, 06284, or 48260. But if you look at this times table, the 7 times table and the 3 times table backwards, you can also discern the 06284 is in the middle of that. See what I mean? Right at the beginning. 06284. Now if you cut that fucker out, what you're left with then, you've got 395117, and that's a very short code. That's like 4 numbers, you know what I mean? Like that's half. You've halved it now. You've gone from having a really long number, which is what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 numbers, I suppose, to make a number, like, because that's from 7 to 0, and from 3 to 0, 30, or whatever. But even the 3 only goes up to, like, actually, yeah, I might be talking shit on that one. But even the 3, I'm pretty sure there's a short code that probably repeats somewhere. 36517. It's quite easy to remember that, innit? If you learned that, then all you'd have to remember was the other code goes in afterwards. So after the 3, it would be 6. After that's 2, 6284. You had to remember 6284, and you had to remember 36517. You'd be a lot easier, especially as you know that one from that other one. And that one's pretty much in everything. 2468 842 048260. Freaky. 6446 in both directions. plus 4, and then 7 plus 6. It's the same in both directions, isn't it? Like 3 to 9 is 6, 7 to 4 is, or 7 to 1 is 6, and 4, 4. That's freaky. 6, 4, 4, 6.
draws a sense to people that don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Wondering what that is. I took out the code that was coming from this one. That was running through this as well. 6284. 6284. It might be in this one at all. Probably not. Anyway, it's in this one. It's dodgy. 6284. So I've taken that out, and then I've taken the distance between each number that's left. So 7 to 1 to 5 to 9 to 3, and then I've taken them numbers and I've put them there, which gave me the this original one, which was what the fuck am I talking about? Was 6448 6446. But then I realised that the 5 is one of them separate numbers, so it can be removed, because all of these others are only got 4 segments as well, all these other codes, so the 5 kind of doesn't relate to a lot, so I can take that out, and if I take that out, that changes that first number from 6446 to 686. Man, I'm losing my voice. I need to come offline because I've been explaining shit too long. Thanks for watching. much easier if I knew the language, because then I'll be able to just be like, I could give you an example by like making a message, you know what I mean? But I could like, if I knew the language, I'd be able to make a message and then decipher it and show you how it works. But just putting in a string of colours. That other thing's just kind of, that's from my own curiosity. I'm obsessed with numbers. There's something about this change. There's something about these. There's a weird question they ask in university that's meant to be like stupidly hard or something, that come up on some online thing, and I figured it out using this pattern. Basically, it's just a sequence of numbers. You just keep repeating the sequence, and then you time this number of sequences rather than number of lockers that are opened. You can open like 10,000 lockers by just counting the number of sequences, and you know how many sequences are within a certain like you can times them all and all that kind of shit. It works. I can't remember it now because I'd have to sit and look at the question and think about it again. It was a long time ago, but it made sense. I think it was actually because of these ones that you can separate, because half of them were doors that were locked and half of them were doors that were open, and these codes basically separate into two separate sections. Oh yeah. So, yo, how's it going, man? Yeah, not bad. Just trying to decipher. I'm trying to do some shit on my Minecraft world. Basically, I've been using colours to represent numbers. I discovered like you can use one colour to represent two numbers, and you can like rewrite numbers in colour for like, yeah man, you can like I don't think you'd be able to. It's not the kind of thing you'd be able to help out on. You got Minecraft, have you? Okay, where's my machine? Not working. yeah, I am on a broadcast, and I'm not. There's no sound in this house other than me. I was going on my Minecraft world for a minute. I've been on it for ages, but I found an alphabet with 24 letters, which is like the runic alphabet that they used to use. And one of the problems I've been having with my idea is that I've been wanting to like try and learn the way to write using colours. And one of the problems I've had is the number of letters in the English alphabet is like, it doesn't work well with any of the colour wheels or anything like that, you know what I mean? Whereas what I can do with a 24 letter alphabet is I can divide it into groups of 4 groups of 6, which works perfectly because there's actually only 4 real numbers. Like 5 and 10 aren't really a number. They're kind of they're in betweeners. They're not in part of any of the codes. If you do if you run all the times tables back to front, they've all got a code within them. Or most of them have got a code within them, and they're like, a lot of them. One of them's actually got the other times tables inside that timetable, like between the letters and shit like that. Do you know what I mean? And basically speaking, if you cut it all down to the one part segment, then most of them are actually only four numbers long or 5 numbers long in total for the whole entire times table. The only thing that makes it complicated is the fact that they're adding in the tens, and that's when people start getting confused. Well, anyway, trying to get back to the point, by using 9 numbers, you can divide 6 numbers or you can divide 6 letters into 3 possible answers, which allows you to use the 6 different colours from the colour pattern or the colour tree or whatever to basically be able to decipher a language by just putting them into different groups. So like say it starts it off, you put in a big list of numbers or a big, and it would come up, it would be able to like decipher and write in another language based on them numbers, because what happens is it starts with 4 different coloured groups. So once one of them colours is lit up, then all of the colours after that correspond to one of the letters within that group. As soon as you close that group down, it picks another box. It will pick like the colours will then correspond to the letters within that group. But you can use the same colours over and over again because they never get confused because it knows what group it's in. Do you know what I mean? It's very complicated, but it's actually really... It seems complicated because it's new, but it actually is... Once you start using it, it's kind of one of those things where it becomes more... It's more intuitive, and it actually would save a lot of space and information, because you could write entire pages of script with just a few dots of colour. Nunchuck Boy 83, I think it's probably the easiest way you find it. NUNCHUCK 83, or Boy 83, BOY, sorry. I don't think I've changed that yet since when I made it fucking years ago. The channel name isn't called that though. I can't remember if it's Damaged Good or some shit. I haven't been on there in ages because I broke my laptop. I haven't been able to get on the PC. Oh, my machine sees that. You want to see my like, it doesn't work as well as it used to be fair. It used to just run and run and run. I've got videos on there of it running, but it's on the update, they fuck with things. Plus it looks like it's broken at some point. I don't remember that lake being there. Looks like I've got a break in there somewhere. I don't know, I've not been on this for a while. This could be one of the damaged worlds. I just jumped on it for a minute just to see what was... I've got loads of weird shit in this place. This is just rubbish stuff. This is just like curiosity kind of stuff. Like, I think that looked pretty cool. Looks shit in there, but at night time it looks pretty mad. Just trying out different ideas really. This one's one of my weird ones. If I can find some to actually work in it. That one brings up individual blocks once. That one brings them up twice. Yeah, and the other one gives it twice. It's just no reason at all. Just it's so useless. Took me whole days to learn that. All of this shit's like my own invention though. So. And I don't really understand redstone. I'm just like my blast chamber I built. This one works perfectly actually. So I ain't broken anything in it. If it depends on what world I'm on, because this could be like a dud world. Yeah, I'm on the dud world. I must have not repaired it on this world. I'd repaired all this before. Ugh. Forever, man. As soon as I smash them, they'll just keep replacing. It's like an endless chain of cobble. Like I say, I've broken it though. I need to reset this up so the power's get into everything, but this is obviously not my perfect world. I've got another world where this has all been fixed and everything. Because otherwise that would have just pushed out all the way. And that was going to be a dropper, had bombs falling in, but just random shit. I can't remember what this is. Oh yeah, another one of those weird ones where put a thing in and it pops it out, lifts it back out. This was a pain to do though, because I was trying to make it do that really. I had a shocker chest, and I was hoping it was going to push out chests and lift them up, but then it just kept breaking them. It was pointless. Didn't do what I hoped it was going to do. I love the way it does it though. The fact it pushes it forward and up one. That's cool. If it could actually serve the purpose what it was meant to do, and it just pushed up a little shocker chest, it would have been fucking sweet. Well, the thing is, like, I was making cobblestone makers long before there was really any tutorials on cobblestone makers. So all that's from my own design. There isn't like anybody. Yeah, I basically I don't even know how it works. Fucking redstone. To be fair, I just keep tinkering and tinkering and tinkering until it works. Like that shit. It's just like, hey, why not? There's no purpose, but I just wanted to see what I could do. I can't remember this. Oh, I can't remember what that was. Obviously, it was something that didn't work. Don't even know what half of this stuff is. most of this is all like some random people just come on here as well and did some shit, weird shit. Got a little smoking chamber, my little smoke chamber. Try and get through there and not get whacked. Ah! Yeah, I'll probably jump on there in a minute. Yeah, that's on a timer, so that just chops shit every day. Little cobblestone makers of things. No, hang on a minute, I'll show you that other thing if you're watching. Are you still watching? I'll show you. Yeah, I'll show you that other thing. I'm not going to be able to explain it that well though, because I've literally just explained it like 3 times now and my throat's getting a bit getting a bit fucked, to be honest. See how fucked my controller is, can't you? You want? It wouldn't hurt. To be fair, I say I broke my fucking laptop, so I haven't been able to get on there and edit any of my videos for ages. I haven't really uploaded anything good either for a while, because whenever I used to upload decent videos, people were stealing them, and because I can't get online to change my settings or nothing, I don't really want to be uploading stuff and then they steal it all. A lot of there's a few videos I'm pretty certain was stolen from me that a lot of people have got fucking thousands of views for, because when Neo first come out I platinumed that shit, and then when they remastered it, all my trophies disappeared. And there's a bitch that jumps off the walls at you, and I beat that fucker just using parries. But I haven't been able to do it since, because my eyesight ain't as good. Well, I got decked by a couple of dodgy cops a few years ago, and they bashed me over the head until I pretty much, well, he put my head against a brick wall and squashed it until my skull cracked, while his partner had me in handcuffs. Beat me in nightstick over and over again, till I actually stopped trying to defend myself, just thinking maybe if I let him hit me a few times he'll stop. You know what I mean? Get it out of his system. Gut rot. Yeah, well, this is the best way for me to explain it, is the principle that I've kind of built here to explain it to someone else. There's 4 blocks of these letters of 6. I've only built 2 so far because I haven't got around to building the other 2. And there's 4 colours corresponding to each block. That makes a little bit more sense if you understand this bit here, where because I'm using 1 colour to represent 2, there's only actually really 4 main colours, and then you've got like your 5s and your 10s. So taking that into consideration, you've got your 4 blocks, and then you've got your 4 blocks of 6, which will be your 6 characters of your 6 runes in each. Alright, once this light lights up, one of these lights will determine that that's block 1, yellow block. So now whatever numbers these are, they'll only be reading numbers, or they'll only be reading letters from this block, none of the other blocks. This allows you to then reuse the colour for all 4 blocks, because only while that light is on it's recollecting as a colour from that block. Do you know what I mean? As soon as that switches off, it's nothing again. And then you've got your 1 to 9. Like, here's your 2. It's also representing on there as that colour. There's your 5, and there's your 8. These 3 colours are neutral. They don't really represent fuck all. So if you've got one of those colours, it basically means it's no letter. But if you got like a 1 or a 3,
it will be orange or red, which will give you that rune or that rune. If you've got like a 4 or 6, it will give you that one or that one. And that will give you a 7 or a 9, will give you a yellow or a green. And obviously you can run in chains and chains of numbers, get a dozen off of them out of here if you want, if it makes up something. I don't know the language to be able to do that, do you know what I mean? But if somebody knew the language, I'm sure there's more of them on one of these chains that probably coincide with each other, do you know what I mean? But essentially it just takes however many letters or them colours of running as numbers. Like you send a line of colour, and then it will go blah 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 blah, and then it would send you back a line of words. And it seems complicated, but I mean, if you actually had a colour bar, you could code it to only know, like you change the primary colours to whatever colours you've got on your colour bar, and then you've got an uncrackable system. Because there's like the colour whatever it is, the colour wheel is basically got unlimited combinations of colour in it, in reality. Well, the point is to be able to reduce the amount of information in a... You could basically write an entire language just using dots and colour. Like how many pixels does it take to write a letter versus write one dot of colour that could be an entire word versus, you know what I mean? Like some runes represent entire words. You could just write a dot, one dot, and that represents an entire word. How much information can you fit into a computer's architecture if it can read information in dots instead of in terms of human writing down miles and miles of bullshit? How much information is it trying to? How many pages is it trying to read through? Which is just like if, or, this, line, that, crap, bollocks. When it can just read 5 or 10, when it can just read a long chain of numbers, or a chain of numbers which are just color coded, so that it just reads colours. How much information can it glean? Because like, look at that. How much information can you put in just 10 different colours, and you could put in a mountain of information. And the storage factor as well. It's just, it can compartmentalise everything to just being literally, you know. You could conceal so much information within pictures and other stuff. Use of the spyware and all kinds of shit, couldn't you? Information hiding, like locking your account, all kinds of things. Loads of technologies. Like I say, the colour wheel is almost infinite in terms of how many different colour shades you can make. So if you was like a country's leader or whatever, and you had a specific, you just had like a bar that only you could get into your computer with that specific colour that had been specially made just for you, it would be impossible for them to replicate that unless they got a hold of your thing and did it, because it'd never be the exact same colour. You couldn't like, even like over time it would degrade and its colour would change, you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of, I think we probably knew more in the ancient days that we did. Like, I think over time people become so independent in like the fields where they kind of was like, oh well, I'm an English person and I'm a this and I'm a that, and they kind of separated all their fields. I think in the old days everything was more holistic, and they kind of looked at the world as one big whole rather than lots of individual things. And I think a lot of our languages and stuff like that, and the colour wheel and all that kind of stuff, was probably created more universally to be inclusive of each other, rather than now where everything's independent. I think even like math, I don't think, because they invented the zero quite late in mathematics. It wasn't it's a fairly recent addition to mathematics. You know what I mean? And once you take it out, it affects a lot of. There's a lot of things when you try and do math, they don't work, but once you take out the zeros and the fives and things like that, they work quite well. Like there'll be repeating codes that ain't repeating codes because of the fives, it breaks it, but as soon as you take it out there, the code just goes on and on and on and on. Because it was never meant to be there. You know what I mean? And like abacus is, I think, the abacus was basically like the equivalent of a 10, wouldn't it? You'd count your 9 beads and then you'd move one across at the other end. That was your hole. And we basically was like, oh, let's just call it 10. Instead of having holes. This idea has been bouncing around in my head for over a decade. I did a lot of this. I did loads of this a few years ago when I was with a bird, probably over a decade ago, and then I got really fed up and just ended up deleting it, I think. And then it come back to me years later like it was a new idea. And then when I was doing it, I was starting to have recollections of doing it in the past. You know what I mean? I sat on a train telling some maths guy about it, and he didn't get it. He was like, oh, if it don't work all the time, then it don't work. And it's like, well, it does work, but it's the same with math, innit? You've got to have, there's certain rules when you're creating an entire new way to write letters in colour. There are certain rules you have to abide. Same way with maths. Like when it comes to writing 15, for example, I have to write it differently on this because I'm using the X as the 10 symbol, but I'm also using it as a 5. And it works well when you're using numbers to stack up as blocks. They work fine like that. But when you start getting into the bigger numbers, where it's like 3 5s is then 50 plus 5 and things like that, you know what I mean? It starts getting a bit confusing. And there's certain rules you have to go, for example, when I do the 15, I do 1 and 5, whereas up until that point it's like the X plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. It's basically Roman numerals. It works the same way as Roman numerals do. Anyway, that's enough driving you crazy with that. Yeah, let's get on that other game. Have some fun. Yeah, let's get on it. Let's hit that shit. Oh, don't. I was on